Chapter 1. The Power of Internal Ownership. The Invisible Chain. Most people live their entire lives chained to the opinions, moods, and actions of others. Without realizing it, they hand over the reins of their emotions to strangers, circumstances, and fleeting events. A disapproving look from a coworker can ruin their entire day. A single negative comment on social media can eat away at their confidence for weeks. But here's the hard truth. No one and nothing has the power to define your worth, your emotions, or your sense of peace unless you hand them that power. This invisible chain, the automatic connection between external events and your internal state, is what keeps most people in emotional servitude. They live at the mercy of external forces, constantly buffeted by other people's judgments, praise, and criticism. The path to becoming unshakable begins the moment you realize your internal world is yours alone to govern. Emotional ownership, the missing lesson. Most of us were never explicitly taught that our emotions belong to us. We were raised to react, to interpret external events as the cause of our feelings. He made me angry, or she hurt my feelings are common phrases, but they mask a dangerous lie. No one can make you feel anything without your cooperation. Your emotions are not a reflex. They are a product of your interpretation. How you choose to label and frame what's happening around you. When you reclaim ownership of your interpretations, you reclaim your emotions. That's the root of all unshakability. It's not the insult, the rejection, or the setback that wounds you. It's the story you tell yourself about what those things mean. Did that rejection mean you're unworthy? Did that insult confirm your worst fears about yourself? Did that failure mean you're doomed to a life of mediocrity? Or was it just a bump on a long road? You get to decide. The shift. From victim to sovereign. The mindset shift at the core of internal ownership is this. You are not a passive victim of life's events. You are the sovereign authority of your inner world. Most people live in reaction mode. They allow every passing event to dictate their state. If someone praises them, they glow with self-worth. If someone criticizes them, they wither with self-doubt. It's an exhausting way to live, because it places your peace and confidence at the mercy of factors you can't control. But when you claim full ownership of your internal state, you step into a position of power. You become the one who decides how to interpret events, how to assign meaning, and ultimately, how to feel. This is not denial. It's not pretending things don't hurt. It's about consciously choosing how much power you give to external events, and deciding who holds the pen when it comes to writing the story of your worth. External events are neutral until you label them. This is a truth that can change your life. Events themselves are neutral. A missed opportunity, a critical comment, or a rejection, these things only gain meaning when you assign it to them. One person may see a job rejection as devastating proof of their inadequacy. Another may see it as a redirect, a nudge toward something better. The event is the same. The meaning is chosen. If meaning is optional, why not choose meanings that serve you? Why not label setbacks as opportunities and criticism as irrelevant noise? This is not toxic positivity. It's not pretending bad things are good. It's recognizing your power to assign meaning and choosing not to poison your mind with interpretations that weaken you. The formula: event, interpretation, emotion. Here's the hidden formula behind every emotional reaction you have. Event, interpretation, emotion. Most people skip the middle step. They think events trigger emotions directly. But that's a lie. There's always a layer in between. Your interpretation, your mental filter, your chosen meaning. The good news is, you can intercept that middle step. You can question your interpretations, reframe your stories, and reclaim control over your emotional responses. Every time you do, you strengthen the muscle of internal ownership. Common traps that steal internal ownership. Let's look at some of the most common ways people accidentally surrender their inner world to outside forces. The approval addiction. When your self-worth is based on how others see you, you live in constant emotional debt, forever chasing validation, forever terrified of disapproval. The comparison loop. Measuring your worth against others' highlights reels ensures you'll always feel lacking. You've handed your self-assessment to external illusions. The over-identification trap. When you tie your identity to outcomes, a promotion, a relationship, a project success, any external failure becomes an internal collapse. The blame game. Blaming others for your emotions, "they made me angry," strips you of your own power to choose your response. The emotional echo chamber. Surrounding yourself with people who project their insecurities onto you, and believing them, is handing them the keys to your emotional kingdom. The unshakable mindset shift. The unshakable mindset flips all these traps on their head. It replaces them with self-defined worth, rooted in values, not validation. Internal comparisons. Measuring yourself against your own progress, not others' facades. Detached identity. Knowing you are more than any one outcome or failure. Emotional sovereignty. Owning your reactions, even when others behave poorly. Selective input. Filtering whose opinions and energy deserve entry to your mental space. Practical tools to strengthen internal ownership. 1. The pause practice. Before reacting, pause. Ask, am I choosing this reaction, or is it automatic? This 1-second pause rewires your mind, from reactive to intentional. 2. The reframe ritual. Whenever something upsets you, write down what happened, the meaning you're assigning to it, a new meaning that strengthens you. Over time, this rewires your default interpretations. 3. The circle of control exercise. Draw a circle. Inside, list everything you control: your actions, interpretations, words, values. Outside, list what you can't control: others' opinions, outcomes, past events. Focus only on the inner circle. 4. Daily self-validation. At day's end, write one sentence affirming something you handled well, even if no one saw it. Self-validation is the anchor that holds you steady when external validation is absent. 5. Mindful detachment. When someone offers criticism or praise, silently think, this is their opinion, not my truth. Let it pass through you without attachment. Reclaiming your inner kingdom. At the heart of internal ownership is this truth: you are the sole authority over your inner kingdom. You decide what enters, which opinions, judgments, and stories are granted influence. You decide how events are interpreted, whether they wound you or teach you. You decide how you respond, with calm or chaos, dignity or drama. This is not control over life. It's control over your inner life, the only life you've ever truly owned. The world will never stop being chaotic. People will always have opinions. Setbacks will always occur. But when you live from internal ownership, none of it owns you. You are unshakable because you have reclaimed the only thing that was ever truly yours: yourself. Chapter 2. Everyone is a teacher. Transforming every interaction into a lesson. The world as your classroom. The average person divides the world into categories: friends and enemies, allies and threats, teachers and fools. This separation is natural, but it's also limiting. When you only look to certain people for lessons, mentors, authors, admired figures, you close yourself off to the countless opportunities to learn hidden in everyday interactions. What if every single person you encountered was a teacher? What if the difficult coworker, the rude stranger, the inattentive friend, all had something valuable to teach you? This isn't about idolizing everyone or excusing bad behavior. It's about adopting a mindset that transforms life into a continuous classroom where every interaction, especially the challenging ones, offers a lesson in self-mastery, patience, boundaries, or understanding. When you see everyone as a teacher, no experience is wasted. No encounter is just an annoyance or a source of stress. Everything becomes an opportunity to learn about yourself, your triggers, your blind spots, your values, and about others, their wounds, their struggles, their humanity. This shift alone can transform how you experience the world. Lessons in mirrors. The people who trigger you most are often your clearest mirrors. They reflect the parts of yourself that you haven't fully understood, accepted, or healed. A boss who micromanages you may awaken your fear of inadequacy. A friend who frequently cancels plans may stir your insecurities around worthiness and abandonment. When you stop taking these experiences personally and start asking, what is this teaching me about myself? The discomfort becomes data. Instead of seeing people as sources of frustration, you see them as unintentional teachers, exposing the inner work still left to do. This perspective doesn't excuse poor behavior, but it allows you to detach from it. You stop reacting defensively and start observing curiously. Every time someone triggers you, it's a knock at your inner door saying, "There's a part of you here that still needs your attention." Resistance as the greatest teacher. The people you find hardest to tolerate, the arrogant, the aggressive, the selfish, are often the teachers you need most. Not because you should become like them, but because they force you to practice strengthening your inner boundaries. Each encounter with someone who challenges your peace is a chance to strengthen your ability to hold calm under pressure. Clarify your values. Practice asserting your needs without defensiveness. Deepen your understanding of how you choose to engage. Some teachers show you who you want to be. Others show you who you refuse to become. Both lessons are equally valuable. The ego's objection, "I already know this." One of the greatest obstacles to lifelong learning is the illusion of knowing. When someone irritates you, your ego immediately categorizes them wrong, ignorant, difficult, and dismisses them entirely. In doing so, you cut yourself off from potential growth. The unshakable mind resists this reflex. Instead, it asks, "What does this moment want to teach me?" Even when the lesson isn't obvious, the act of staying open is a discipline in itself, a reminder that wisdom often hides where you least expect it. This mindset also shifts the way you receive criticism. Most people instinctively reject feedback that feels uncomfortable, even if it's valid. When you see everyone as a teacher, you learn to separate the delivery from the content, discarding the hostility but keeping the useful insights. Practical lessons in everyday encounters. Let's explore common situations and the hidden lessons they offer, if you're willing to look. The critical coworker teaches you to filter feedback without absorbing hostility. The overbearing family member teaches you to practice healthy detachment and boundary setting. The friend who rarely listens teaches you the value of being fully present when you engage. The stranger who shows unexpected kindness teaches you the power of small gestures. The person who ignores you teaches you to validate yourself rather than seek external affirmation. Every teacher serves a purpose. There are no wasted encounters when you adopt this mindset. Some people teach you by example, showing you qualities you admire and wish to embody. Others teach you by contrast, revealing behaviors that you refuse to adopt. Both forms are essential. Imagine your life as a constant training ground for resilience, patience, compassion, and self-respect. Every interaction becomes part of that curriculum. Teachers in disguise. Some of your most profound lessons will come from people who never intended to teach you. A breakup, a betrayal, a rejection. These experiences often bring the harshest, yet most necessary, lessons. The heartbreak teaches you your capacity for love and your need for boundaries. The betrayal teaches you discernment, how to choose where to place your trust. The rejection teaches you self-approval, that your worth isn't determined by someone else's preference. In time, you'll see that some of your best teachers were the people you thought were your enemies. Curiosity over judgment. The key to extracting lessons from every interaction is curiosity over judgment. Judgment ends inquiry. It labels someone good or bad, right or wrong, and leaves no room for understanding. Curiosity, on the other hand, opens the door to insight. Instead of thinking, "This person is so rude," ask, "What wound might they be carrying? How would I act if I felt powerless? Why does this trigger me so much?" This curiosity doesn't mean tolerating toxic behavior. It means refusing to let external negativity poison your internal clarity. Judgment makes you rigid. Curiosity keeps you adaptable. Learning from admiration. Not all teachers are difficult. Some are people who inspire you, whose presence reminds you of your own potential. These are the mentors, role models, and quiet influences whose character, values, or achievements awaken something in you. The mistake most people make is admiring passively, placing those they respect on pedestals rather than seeing them as reflections of what's possible for themselves. When you admire someone, ask, "What specific qualities do I admire in them? How can I embody those qualities in my own way?" Admiration, when paired with action, becomes self-evolution. Every day, a lesson plan. You don't need to go to workshops or read endless self-help books to grow. Every single day offers a full curriculum, if you have the eyes to see it. Today alone, you may be taught patience by the slow driver, kindness by the barista, assertiveness by the colleague who speaks up, self-compassion by the moment you catch yourself in negative self-talk. The more you commit to this lens, the more life becomes a rich, interactive classroom. The reflection ritual, extracting daily lessons. At the end of each day, reflect. Who were today's teachers? What did they reveal about me? What inner strength did they invite me to practice? What qualities do I want to embody tomorrow? This simple habit transforms even frustrating days into valuable learning experiences. Detachment through learning. When you see everyone as a teacher, you also become less reactive. Why? Because difficult people are no longer just annoyances, they are part of your training. Their behavior no longer feels personal, it feels instructional. This detachment, this ability to step back and see the lesson, creates an emotional buffer between you and the world. It allows you to observe life without absorbing its chaos. Embrace the world as your teacher. The unshakable mind sees life as a school and every person, whether kind or cruel, as part of the curriculum. Some lessons are gentle, some are harsh, but all are useful if you're willing to receive them. When you make learning from life itself a lifelong practice, you step into continuous growth, and you transform every interaction into fuel for your evolution. No one can shake you when every experience only makes you wiser. Chapter 3. Transforming Envy into Inspiration. From Comparison to Creation. Envy. The shadow side of admiration. Envy has a bad reputation. It's labeled as petty, small-minded, and spiritually immature. Most of us are taught to suppress it, to hide it beneath fake smiles, or to coat it with toxic self-criticism, believing that feeling envy means something is wrong with us. But envy, like all emotions, is neither good nor bad. It's data, a signal. Beneath its sting lies valuable information about what you want, who you aspire to become, and the life you secretly crave. When you stop seeing envy as a flaw and start seeing it as a compass, it becomes a powerful tool for growth. The unshakable mind doesn't fear envy, it uses it. Instead of allowing it to shrink your sense of self, you can learn to transmute envy into inspiration, direction, and self-discovery. This is the path from comparison to creation. Envy's hidden gift. Most people think envy is about the other person, the colleague who got the promotion, the friend with the perfect relationship, the influencer with a dream lifestyle. But envy has little to do with them. Envy is a mirror, reflecting back your own desires, your unclaimed potential, and the gap between who you are today and who you sense you could be. When you feel envy, ask, what exactly do I envy? What quality, achievement, or lifestyle triggers me? What does this reveal about what I secretly want for myself? Envy is not a sign that you're broken. It's a sign that you have unexplored desires and untapped potential. The uncomfortable truth is, you don't envy things you have no interest in achieving. This is why envy is one of the most valuable forms of self-knowledge, if you have the courage to look at it directly. From comparison to clarity. Envy turns toxic when it's left unconscious. When you feel envy and don't process it, it festers into self-doubt, bitterness, or quiet resignation. You scroll through social media, comparing your behind-the-scenes struggles with someone else's highlight reel, forgetting that you're comparing your raw draft to their polished product. But envy, when approached with curiosity, reveals clarity. Do you envy someone's freedom to travel? Maybe you crave more flexibility in your own life. Do you envy someone's confidence on stage? Maybe a part of you longs to express yourself more boldly. Do you envy someone's success? Maybe you're ready to step into your own potential, if you'd stop doubting yourself. The point isn't to copy anyone. It's to decode the message envy is trying to send you, and then chart your own path. What you envy is what you value. Every time you feel envy, you're receiving a message about your values, the things you deeply care about but perhaps haven't fully claimed. Envy for someone's creative success signals your own desire to express yourself. Envy for someone's strong relationship reveals your own hunger for deep connection. Envy for someone's discipline points to your own longing for self-mastery. Envy is only painful when it reveals a gap between what you value and how you're living. That gap isn't a flaw. It's an invitation. Key reframe. Envy isn't about them having more. It's about you wanting to live more fully aligned with your own values. Turning envy into admiration, and admiration into action. The secret to transmuting envy is to shift it from passive longing to active learning. Instead of stewing in resentment, you turn your attention to study and strategy. Step 1. Acknowledge the envy without shame. The goal isn't to shame yourself for feeling it. It's to ask, what is this pointing me toward? Step 2. Extract the qualities, not the surface image. What do you actually envy? Not the car or the title, but maybe the courage, creativity, or consistency that led to it. Step 3. Turn admiration into a blueprint. Once you know what quality or path is calling you, break it down into skills, habits, and mindsets you can practice. Envy transforms into admiration, and admiration becomes your roadmap. Envy as proof of possibility. The presence of envy doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're waking up to possibility. Envy shows you that what you want exists, and if it exists for someone else, it's possible for you too. The person you envy isn't an enemy. They are proof. They are living evidence that the life you crave can be built. The unshakable mind doesn't shrink in envy's presence. It uses envy as evidence that the future is calling. Comparison kills creativity. The fastest way to poison your potential is to get stuck in comparison paralysis, measuring your progress against someone else's peak, forgetting that your journey is yours alone. Comparison shrinks your creativity. It narrows your focus to copying instead of creating your own path. The antidote is this mantra. Their path is not my path. My growth unfolds at my pace. The unshakable mind respects others' journeys, but stays rooted in its own. Study, don't idolize. When you admire someone, don't just passively wish for their life. Study how they built it. What habits do they practice? How do they handle setbacks? What risks did they take? What values shape their choices? Admiration becomes fuel when you break it down into actionable lessons, customizing their principles to fit your values and life. Envy becomes useless the moment you realize you can build your own version. The self-worth anchor. The healthiest way to transmute envy is to anchor yourself so deeply in your own values and path that other success no longer feels threatening. You can appreciate their brilliance without doubting your own. You can cheer for their success while pursuing yours. You can admire their qualities while nurturing your own. The unshakable mind knows. Someone else's light does not dim your own. Practical exercises. Envy alchemy. Decode your envy list. Write a list of people you envy, and for each, decode what exactly you envy about them. Is it confidence? Creativity? Freedom? This is your desire map. Turn qualities into goals. For each envied quality, create a personal growth goal. If you envy someone's discipline, start small. One daily habit that builds consistency. Shift to curiosity. Next time envy arises, pause and ask, what does this reveal about my desires, and what small step can I take today to honor them? Gratitude for possibility. Practice reframing envy into gratitude. I'm thankful to see what's possible for me, too. The path from envy to unshakable confidence. When you make this shift, from comparison to creation, from longing to learning, envy loses its sting. It no longer shrinks you. It calls you forward. Envy is only toxic when it stays unexamined. But when you use it as a compass pointing you toward your own evolution, it becomes one of your most powerful teachers. The unshakable mind doesn't fear others' success. It celebrates it as a reflection of what's possible for us all. The only true competition is between who you were yesterday and who you are becoming today. Chapter 4. Be strict with yourself, tolerant with others. Mastering self-discipline and compassionate detachment. The double standard that frees you. Most people do the opposite of what creates inner peace. They hold others to impossibly high standards, expecting friends, partners, colleagues, and even strangers to behave exactly as they wish. Yet, they give themselves endless excuses, procrastinating, cutting corners, or abandoning their values when things get hard. This imbalance is a formula for frustration. You become irritated with the world for not conforming to your desires, all while weakening your own character through self-neglect. The unshakable mindset flips this entirely. You become unrelentingly disciplined with yourself, but you release others from your expectations. This is not self-punishment or self-sacrifice. It's a radical act of personal power, choosing to take full responsibility for your actions and integrity, while granting others the freedom to walk their own paths. The more you practice this, the calmer you become. When your own standards are high, and you stop expecting perfection from others, you discover a rare combination of strength and serenity. Why self-discipline builds freedom? At first, it may seem like being strict with yourself is restrictive. But in reality, it's the ultimate freedom. When you live by your own principles, not fleeting moods, not convenience, and not external approval, you break free from inner chaos. Self-discipline is about building trust with yourself. Every time you follow through on a promise to yourself, whether it's showing up for your workout, maintaining your boundaries, or speaking your truth, you reinforce the belief that you can count on yourself. When you can count on yourself, you don't need to control anyone else. Your self-respect isn't dependent on whether others behave properly. Your inner peace comes from knowing, I did what I said I'd do, regardless of what anyone else did. This is the essence of internal stability, the unshakable foundation that no external chaos can crack. Why letting go of control over others creates peace. The flip side of self-discipline is releasing the grip you have on others. Most people waste enormous energy trying to force, manipulate, or resent others into behaving a certain way, whether it's family members, partners, colleagues, or even strangers online. The truth is, you cannot control anyone's choices, beliefs, or behavior. The more you try, the more powerless you feel. The more you release, the freer you become. When you expect others to behave perfectly, according to your script, you set yourself up for constant disappointment. But when you accept that everyone has their own path, wounds, blind spots, and timelines, you stop being shocked or outraged every time they don't meet your standards. This doesn't mean tolerating mistreatment. It means understanding that others are sovereign over their choices, just as you are sovereign over yours. High standards for yourself, grace for others. The unshakable person lives by this motto. Demand excellence from yourself, offer grace to others. This doesn't mean you become passive or permissive. It means you stop tying your peace to whether other people live up to your standards. Instead, you shift all that energy inward, to ensure your own conduct reflects the values you cherish. You become the model, not the enforcer. This shift creates immense inner peace. You stop wasting energy controlling what you can't, other people, and instead invest fully in what you can, your own character and actions. Detachment. The power of letting people be themselves. When you're strict with yourself but tolerant with others, you cultivate detachment. Not emotional coldness, but the mature ability to let people be who they are, without needing to change them to feel okay. This detachment says, I will be honest, even if others lie. I will be kind, even if others are rude. I will be disciplined, even if others are lazy. I will show up fully, even if others fall short. You take radical ownership of yourself, while releasing the illusion that your peace depends on whether others get it right. This is ultimate freedom. Why it's so hard? The ego's need to control. The ego, your mind's protective, defensive part, hates this principle. It wants everyone else to change first, so you can finally feel safe, respected, and validated. It insists. I can't be calm until they apologize. I can't feel secure until they prove themselves. I can't relax until they see things my way. But waiting for others to change is emotional imprisonment. It hands them all the power over your inner state. It makes your peace conditional, always at the mercy of someone else's growth, self-awareness, or apology. The unshakable mind flips this. My peace depends only on how I show up, not on whether they approve, understand, or behave well. This is real power. Holding yourself to higher standards, not as punishment, but as self-respect. Being strict with yourself isn't about self-punishment. It's an act of self-respect. It's the quiet decision to live in alignment with who you say you want to be, regardless of circumstances. When you expect more of yourself, in kindness, honesty, discipline, and accountability, You stop needing to demand it from others. You realize your sense of dignity comes from your own actions, not from others' approval or reciprocity. Letting go of the need to fix others. One of the hardest habits to break is the compulsion to fix people, to lecture, correct, or mold them into the version you think they should be. This need often disguises itself as care, but it's really just control with softer edges. When you practice tolerance for others, you accept they have the right to their pace of growth. They may never see things your way, and that's okay. Their flaws are not your responsibility to correct. This tolerance doesn't mean staying in toxic situations. It means you don't carry the emotional burden of trying to fix everyone. You can leave, but you don't have to hate them. The inner question, am I living up to my own standards? When you're strict with yourself, you develop the habit of self-inquiry. Instead of asking, why aren't they doing better? You ask, am I living up to my own values today? This question anchors you. It keeps your energy where it belongs, focused on your own integrity, growth, and choices. Others' flaws become less irritating because you're too busy refining yourself. Their immaturity doesn't throw you off course because you have your own code to live by. Practical exercises to develop this mindset. 1. Your personal code of conduct. Write a personal code, a short list of principles you will hold yourself to, regardless of others' behavior. Example: speak honestly, even if others lie. Practice kindness, even if others are cold. Honor commitments, even if others flake. Stay calm, even if others provoke. Review this code daily. 2. The mirror check. Each time you feel tempted to criticize someone else's behavior, pause and ask, where in my own life am I neglecting my own standards? This keeps your focus inward. 3. Release ritual. When someone frustrates you, write their name on paper and list the expectations you've been holding over them. Then write, I release them to their own journey. I focus on mine. Burn or shred the paper. 4. Daily self-review. Each evening, ask, did I live up to my own standards today? This keeps you self-accountable, not others accountable. The unshakable mindset shift. The more you demand from yourself and release others, the more free, grounded, and powerful you become. You no longer need to micromanage the world. You no longer need anyone else to change for you to be okay. Your peace is yours, earned through the discipline of self-respect and the grace of allowing others to walk their own path. This is what it means to be unshakable. Chapter 5. No one can hurt you unless you let them. The great illusion of power. Most people walk through life believing that other people hold the power to hurt them, with words, rejection, judgment, or betrayal. They believe insults have the power to cut, gossip has the power to humiliate, and abandonment has the power to shatter their self-worth. But what if this is a lie? What if the truth is far simpler, and far more freeing? What if no one could hurt you emotionally unless you allowed them to? This idea can feel radical, even offensive at first. After all, we're conditioned to believe our emotions are at the mercy of others. They made me feel this way is part of everyday language. But this belief is not a reflection of reality. It's a habit of mind. A habit you can break. The difference between pain and suffering. To understand this principle, you need to distinguish between two things. Pain is an unavoidable part of life. You will experience loss, disappointment, rejection, and failure. These moments naturally hurt. Suffering is the additional emotional torment created by your mind, the stories, meanings, and interpretations you attach to events. Here's the crucial truth. You cannot always avoid pain, but you can drastically reduce suffering. You cannot stop someone from rejecting you, but you can decide what that rejection means about your worth. You cannot stop someone from insulting you, but you can decide whether their insult defines you. You cannot stop someone from leaving, but you can decide whether you're incomplete without them. Suffering only happens when you let external events dictate your sense of self. Hurt is an inside job. The idea that no one can hurt you without your consent isn't about pretending to be invincible or pretending words don't sting. It's about understanding this core truth. The only reason someone's words or actions can hurt you is because somewhere inside, you believe they might be true. An insult only wounds you if it touches a sensitive spot you haven't healed. Rejection only devastates you if you believe your worth depends on external approval. Gossip only humiliates you if you rely on reputation for self-respect. In other words, the external act is a trigger, but the internal wound is where the pain actually lives. When you heal those wounds, others lose the ability to control your emotions. What you internalize defines you. Imagine two people receive the exact same insult. They're called selfish. The first person is haunted by self-doubt and guilt, always worried they're not generous enough. The insult lands, it hooks into their insecurity and spirals into shame. The second person knows they consistently act with kindness and integrity. The insult slides off, it doesn't match their inner truth. The same words. Completely different impact. The difference is not in the insult, it's in what each person has chosen to internalize about themselves. This is the core lesson. It's not what people say about you that hurts, it's what you choose to believe about yourself. The power of emotional boundaries. Most people think of boundaries as ways to manage other people's behavior. Don't speak to me that way. But the deepest, most powerful boundaries exist inside your own mind. These are emotional boundaries, the clear inner lines that separate what others say about you from what you know to be true about yourself. Others' opinions from your own self-image. Others' choices from your own self-worth. When your emotional boundaries are strong, people can throw words, judgments, and criticisms at you, but they bounce off. Why? Because they don't belong to you. Other people's opinions are reflections of their mind, their wounds, and their stories, not your truth. The mirror of projection. Here's a secret most people never realize. When someone insults, judges, or criticizes you harshly, they are usually projecting their own fears, insecurities, or values onto you. The person who calls you lazy may secretly feel inadequate about their own productivity. The person who accuses you of arrogance may fear they aren't respected themselves. The person who constantly finds fault may be at war with their own inner critic. This isn't to say all criticism is projection, but a large portion of emotional attacks are. Most cruelty is self-hatred wearing someone else's face. When you see this clearly, it becomes much harder to take attacks personally. You start to see them for what they are. Projections, not revelations about who you are. The freedom of inner validation. At the heart of unshakability is the ability to validate yourself, to know who you are without requiring confirmation from anyone else. Most emotional pain comes from outsourcing validation, depending on others to tell you that you're good enough, smart enough, lovable enough. This makes your sense of self fragile, because anything anyone says can shake it. But when you root your self-worth in your own values, choices, and integrity, you become far harder to wound. Criticism becomes feedback, sometimes useful, sometimes irrelevant, but never a threat to your core. Self-validation practice. Each night, ask yourself, did I live today in alignment with my values? If the answer is yes, that's all the validation you need. The pause between trigger and response. Here's the moment where emotional mastery lives, the microsecond between what someone says or does and how you respond internally. In that pause, you have immense power. You can automatically react, letting old wounds and insecurities flare up. Or you can pause, breathe, and choose how much weight you give this moment. This pause is the difference between being controlled by external forces and staying rooted in your own sovereignty. The unshakable person uses that pause to ask, is this really about me, or is it about them? Does this match what I know to be true about myself? Do I need to internalize this, or let it pass? That brief reflection puts space between trigger and reaction. And in that space, freedom lives. Practical tools to reclaim your power. 1. The ownership mantra. When someone's words sting, repeat. Their words reflect them. My response reflects me. 2. The self-inventory. Whenever someone criticizes you, pause and ask, is there any truth here I can learn from? Or is this just noise I can release? 3. Emotional gatekeeping. Picture your mind as a house. Not everyone, and not every opinion, gets a key. You decide who and what is allowed inside. 4. Detach from the source. If someone who doesn't know your heart, values, or full story judges you, why would you hand them your self-worth? Remember, not everyone's opinion is qualified to define me. 5. Daily self-validation ritual. Each day, affirm, I trust my own integrity more than anyone's approval. No one gets a key to your inner world without your permission. At the heart of this chapter is a single truth. Your emotions are yours. Your sense of self is yours. No one can breach those boundaries unless you open the gate. Others will have opinions. Some will misunderstand you. Some will reject you. Some will project their own wounds onto you. None of it defines you unless you allow it to. When you fully own your inner world, you become untouchable. The world can't hurt you because you refuse to hand it that power. This is the root of emotional sovereignty and the foundation of unshakability. Chapter 6. The Power of Acceptance. Mastering the Art of Inner Calm. The root of most suffering. Much of human suffering doesn't come from what's happening. It comes from our refusal to accept what's happening. The event itself is rarely the true cause of distress. It's the fight against reality, the belief that this shouldn't be happening, that creates the internal war. It's that resistance, not the event itself, that fractures your inner calm. Acceptance is not resignation. It's not weakness. It's not saying you like or approve of everything that happens. Acceptance is simply the clear-eyed decision to stop wasting energy resisting what already exists. When you master this, you become untouchable. Life's storms can swirl around you, but they no longer have the power to pull you under. Why? Because you're no longer fighting the storm, you're moving with it, making clear choices within it, instead of screaming at the sky. Why we resist reality. The human mind loves control. It craves predictability, comfort, and the illusion that if we just plan well enough, life will unfold according to script. When reality disrupts those plans, and it always will, the mind's reflex is to resist, to fight, to demand that the world rearrange itself to match our expectations. That resistance feels natural, but it's the root of unnecessary suffering. You cannot control the fact that someone left you, that a business deal fell apart, that illness struck, or that a mistake was made. But you can control whether you cling to a mental fantasy about how it should have been, or whether you face what is with clarity and courage. The unshakable mind learns to accept reality swiftly, not to surrender, but to free itself from the illusion that life owes it comfort or guarantees. The difference between acceptance and resignation. Acceptance does not mean giving up. It does not mean you passively endure mistreatment, injustice, or stagnation. Acceptance is acknowledging reality as it is, so you can respond wisely. Resignation says, there's nothing I can do. Acceptance says, this is what's happening, now how do I want to respond? Acceptance gives you power because you stop leaking energy into resistance and denial. That reclaimed energy becomes available for creative solutions, graceful exits, and conscious action. Reality is always stronger than your preferences. The truth is ruthless. Reality does not care about your preferences. You can prefer sunny weather, but if it rains, your preference doesn't matter. You can prefer people to be kind, but if someone acts cruelly, your preference has no power to rewrite the moment. This is the heart of acceptance. To realize that your personal preferences do not control the world, but they can control how you show up in the world. When you align yourself with reality, instead of your fantasies about how reality should be, you move with life instead of against it. This is the flow state where power lives. The cost of non-acceptance. When you refuse to accept what already is, you enter a losing war. That war has a high cost. Emotional exhaustion. Fighting reality drains your mental and emotional energy. You're left depleted, not by the event itself, but by your refusal to face it. Blindness to solutions. When you resist, you're so busy arguing with reality that you miss the opportunities and choices available within it. Delayed healing. Acceptance is the first step to healing any wound. Without it, you stay stuck in the past, clinging to what should have been instead of grieving, learning, and moving forward. Loss of inner power. When you resist what is, you become a powerless victim of your own refusal to engage with life on its terms. Radical acceptance and inner peace. Radical acceptance is the practice of saying, "This is what's happening. I may not like it. I may choose to change it. But I will not waste my energy pretending it's not real." This practice brings profound peace. The moment you stop insisting life must match your wishes, you become infinitely more capable of shaping it, because you're no longer at war with it. What acceptance is not. It's not passivity. You can accept that you've been mistreated and still leave. It's not approval. You can accept that someone lied without pretending it's okay. It's not apathy. You can accept that your efforts failed and still try again. Acceptance is simply starting where you are, not where you wish you were. It's facing reality with your eyes open and your fists unclenched. Accepting yourself. Acceptance isn't just for external events. It's for yourself too. Accept your mistakes, so you can learn from them. Accept your flaws, so you can grow past them. Accept your feelings, so they can flow through you instead of controlling you. Most self-sabotage comes from self-rejection, refusing to accept parts of yourself that don't fit your ideal image. True confidence comes from saying, "I see all of me, and I choose to work with myself, not against myself." Acceptance and control. The circle exercise. Draw a circle. Inside it, write everything you can control. Your actions, your interpretations, your reactions, your values. Outside the circle, write what you cannot control. Other people's choices. The past. External events. Timing and outcomes. Acceptance is living inside your circle, releasing everything outside of it. The more you stay in that circle, the more unshakable you become. Accepting uncertainty. Most people fear uncertainty, so they fill the unknown with imagined disasters. They catastrophize, predict failure, and assume the worst. This is all resistance disguised as preparation. The truth is, the future has always been uncertain. Control is always an illusion. Acceptance of uncertainty doesn't mean you stop planning. It means you stop needing certainty to feel calm. You anchor yourself in flexibility, adaptability, and self-trust, not the fantasy that life will obey your schedule. Acceptance and forgiveness. Many people resist acceptance because they think it means excusing what happened or letting someone off the hook. But acceptance and forgiveness are not the same. Acceptance says, "This happened." Forgiveness says, "I choose to release my resentment so I can be free." You can accept what happened without minimizing the harm. You can forgive without reconciling. Acceptance is for you, to free your mind from the prison of denial and fantasy. Acceptance as a superpower. When you cultivate the habit of swift acceptance, facing reality quickly, fully, and without unnecessary drama, you become profoundly calm. Why? Because your peace is no longer conditional on everything going your way. You become the kind of person who faces setbacks without collapsing, adapts quickly to change, lets go of toxic relationships without endless inner turmoil, processes emotions without resisting them, navigates uncertainty without panic. This is the calm confidence of someone who no longer demands life be easy, and is therefore prepared for anything. Practical tools for cultivating acceptance. 1. Reality check practice. Whenever something upsets you, pause and ask, what are the facts? What story am I adding? What can I control here? 2. Release statements. When you catch yourself resisting, say, I release my resistance to what is. I accept this moment as my starting point. 3. Emotional flow exercise. When a strong emotion arises, don't resist it. Breathe into it. This feeling is allowed here. I accept it, and I will let it flow. 4. Past acceptance ritual. Write down something you've been resisting, a loss, mistake, or event. Then write, this happened. I accept that it cannot be undone. I choose to release my grip on the past. Burn the paper if you want to ritualize the release. Acceptance makes you unshakable. The world will never conform perfectly to your plans. People will disappoint you. Circumstances will change. Unexpected storms will come. But with acceptance, none of that can break you, because you've made peace with reality itself. This is unshakable living. Not controlling the world, but accepting it, moving with it, and choosing your response from a place of calm strength. Acceptance doesn't mean life will be easy. It means you will always be ready. Chapter 7. Living according to nature. Aligning with life's rhythms to find peace and power. Fighting nature versus flowing with it. Human beings are part of nature, yet modern life disconnects us from its rhythms. We live in a world obsessed with constant productivity, speed, and control, a world that rewards endless pushing and punishes rest. This artificial urgency puts us at war with reality, because nature itself doesn't work that way. Nature flows. It cycles. It rests, grows, dies, and is reborn. The oak tree does not demand that winter hurry up or that spring last longer. It accepts its seasons and thrives because it obeys them. The unshakable mind does the same. It lives according to nature, not just external nature, but inner nature too. It works hard in seasons of growth, retreats in seasons of rest, and embraces the natural ebb and flow of energy, opportunity, and life. When you align yourself with natural rhythms instead of trying to dominate them, life becomes calmer, and you become stronger. The cycles of everything. Nature is built on cycles. Day and night. Tides rising and falling. Birth, growth, decline, and renewal. Everything moves through these stages, including you. Your body has cycles, times of energy, focus, and action, followed by times of rest, reflection, and recovery. Your creativity has cycles, periods of inspiration, expression, and creation, followed by lulls when ideas need to incubate. Your relationships have cycles, moments of closeness, moments of space. Even your emotions have cycles, joy, struggle, clarity, confusion. Ignoring these cycles doesn't stop them, it just creates suffering. When you expect yourself to perform at maximum speed every day, with no rest, no ebb, no pause, you create internal war. The unshakable mind learns to respect these cycles. In the world, in others, and most importantly, in themselves. You are not a machine. Society treats people like machines, expected to be equally productive every day, immune to fluctuation, and valuable only when producing. But you are not a machine. You are a living system, just like a forest, a river, or a garden. You need dormancy to prepare for growth. You need decay to clear space for the new. You need quiet seasons where nothing big happens to gather strength. If you resist this, if you insist on constant output, endless stimulation, and non-stop striving, you violate your nature. And when you violate your nature, your body, mind, and spirit suffer. The unshakable mind honors natural rhythms, understanding that every season has value, even the unproductive ones. Pace yourself like a forest. Forests are among the most resilient systems on Earth. Why? Because they grow slowly, sustainably, shed what no longer serves, adapt to storms without resisting them, use every fallen leaf, every burned tree, to enrich the soil for future growth. Your life works the same way when you allow it to. Your mistakes fertilize your wisdom. Your losses clear space for new growth. Your pauses restore your strength. The unshakable mind does not cling to eternal summer. It embraces all seasons, knowing that each one serves a purpose. Living according to inner nature. Living according to nature isn't just about watching the seasons, it's about understanding your own natural wiring. Some people thrive in the morning, others come alive at night. Some need solitude to recharge, others need connection. Some grow through challenge, others through steady, quiet progress. The unshakable person doesn't compare their rhythm to anyone else's. They study themselves, learning when they're at their best, when they need rest, how they process emotion, and how they access creativity. This self-awareness becomes a map, guiding choices about work, rest, relationships, and goals. When you know your natural cycles, you stop forcing yourself into unnatural molds, and your strength multiplies. Resistance to natural change creates suffering. Most suffering comes from resisting natural change. We cling to what's ending chase what isn't ready, or demand answers from silence. Nature doesn't work that way. You can't make spring arrive faster. You can't prevent autumn from turning into winter. You can't force clarity before it's ready to emerge. The unshakable mind trusts the timing of things. It acts when the season is right, rests when it's time, and releases what's dying, without panic, without clinging. This is the grace of living according to nature. The power of seasonal thinking. One way to realign with natural wisdom is to think of your life in seasons, not days. Spring, planting, beginnings, exploration. Summer, growth, action, expression. Autumn, harvest, reflection, completion. Winter, rest, retreat, inner work. Most people expect endless summer, constant progress and action. But real strength comes from embracing all 4 seasons. Ask yourself, what season am I in right now? Am I respecting it or fighting it? What does this season ask of me? The unshakable person works with the seasons, not against them. The rhythms of energy. Your energy, mental, emotional, physical, works in natural rhythms too. No one has endless energy. Even the most disciplined, driven person needs cycles of deep work and deep rest. High-intensity effort balanced with low-intensity recovery. Emotional openness balanced with quiet self-reflection. When you live according to these inner rhythms, you don't burn out, you build sustainable strength. Nature as teacher. Lessons in resilience. Everywhere in nature are lessons in resilience. The tree bends in the storm, but does not break. The river flows around obstacles, never stopping, just adjusting. The mountain endures wind, rain, and time, but does not fight change. The bear hibernates, conserving energy for the spring ahead. These are not metaphors, they are blueprints. When you adapt like nature, you stop fearing change. You understand. Storms will come, and you will bend, not break. Periods of dormancy are not failure. They are necessary renewal. Letting go of old branches, relationships, habits, identities, creates space for new growth. This is the wisdom of living according to nature. Practical ways to align with nature. 1. Daily natural check-ins. Each morning, ask yourself, what kind of energy do I have today? What does my inner nature need today? Action, reflection, or rest? How can I align my work and choices with that energy? 2. Monthly seasonal review. At the start of each month, reflect. What season am I in personally? Growth, release, rest, exploration. Am I fighting or respecting that season? What would it mean to fully embrace it? 3. Natural rest practices. Spend time in nature, not just to relax, but to observe how nature flows. Notice how everything has a rhythm. Tides, trees, even your breath. Let that remind you, you are not separate from nature. You are part of it. 4. Release rituals. Just as trees drop their leaves, practice conscious release. Let go of outdated goals, relationships, or habits. Trust that shedding is part of growth. The unshakable calm of natural living. When you live according to nature, inner and outer, you stop rushing yourself, resisting change, comparing your timeline to others, forcing clarity before it's time. You start moving with natural momentum, trusting life's timing, valuing rest as much as action, knowing that seasons of waiting are as valuable as seasons of doing. This is the calm, unshakable strength of the person who does not fight reality, but flows with it. Nature is never hurried, yet everything gets done. The unshakable mind is the same. Chapter 8. Focus on ethical living. Building an inner compass that makes you unshakable. Ethical living. The invisible armor. When life becomes chaotic, when conflicts erupt, circumstances turn against you, or people betray you, what keeps you standing? What prevents you from dissolving into fear, anger, or self-doubt? It isn't external power. It isn't control over others. It isn't even cleverness. What protects you is your inner alignment. Your ability to look yourself in the mirror and know you are living according to the values you claim to hold. This alignment is the invisible armor of ethical living, and it is one of the most powerful sources of inner peace you will ever cultivate. When your actions match your values, when you live with integrity even when no one is watching, you create an unshakable foundation within yourself. No external approval is required. No validation is necessary. You know who you are because you live who you are. What is ethical living? Ethical living isn't a rigid moral checklist handed down by others. It's a personal commitment to align your actions with your highest values, even when it's inconvenient, uncomfortable, or costly. It means telling the truth even when lying is easier. Acting with kindness even when cruelty is more satisfying. Keeping promises even when no one would know if you broke them. Taking responsibility even when you could shift blame. Ethical living is not about perfection. You will make mistakes, everyone does. But your commitment is to correct yourself quickly, not to justify, hide, or excuse your lapses. When you live this way, your conscience becomes clear, your mind becomes calm, and you become almost immune to manipulation. Why? Because you are not hiding from yourself. The cost of ethical compromise. Every time you act against your values, even in small ways, you create an internal fracture. A gap opens between who you say you are and how you actually behave. That gap creates anxiety because you're out of alignment, self-doubt because you lose trust in your own word, sensitivity to criticism because part of you fears it might be true, a craving for external validation because internal validation weakens. When you live dishonestly, when you cut corners, gossip, or act in ways that betray your principles, you hand the world a weapon. You become easier to manipulate because you fear being exposed. The unshakable person avoids this trap. They cultivate inner alignment so strong that no one can use guilt, shame, or exposure to control them, because they have nothing to hide. Ethical living and inner peace. The most powerful benefit of ethical living isn't external reputation, it's internal calm. When you know your word is good, your actions are clean, and you've done what you believe is right, you rest easier. You stop over-explaining yourself. You stop fearing others' opinions. You stop spinning stories to justify your choices. You can walk away from conflict without guilt. You can admit mistakes without defensiveness. You can trust yourself, because you've proven you are trustworthy. This peace cannot be purchased. It's earned, one ethical choice at a time. The difference between ethics and rules. Rules are imposed from outside. Laws, policies, cultural norms. Ethics are chosen from within. Your personal principles about right and wrong. There may be overlap, but ethical living isn't about blindly obeying rules. It's about deciding for yourself who you want to be, and living by that code even when no one enforces it. Ethical living is not about avoiding punishment. It's about creating inner integrity so strong that external rules become irrelevant, because your own standards are higher than anyone else's expectations. The power of ethical decision-making. When your life is guided by clear ethical principles, decisions become simpler. You no longer weigh every choice based on convenience, popularity, or short-term gain. You ask only, what choice aligns with my values? This clarity saves enormous energy. It removes indecision, self-justification, and regret. You may not always choose the easiest path, but you will always know why you chose it, and that certainty is priceless. Ethical living and reputation. Ironically, the less you chase external reputation, the more reliable your reputation becomes. When you live by your values consistently, people begin to trust you. Not because you manage your image, but because your character speaks louder than your words. But here's the deeper truth. The only reputation that truly matters is the one you have with yourself. You cannot fake inner peace. You cannot lie to your own conscience. Ethical living builds a self-respect so strong that even if the world misunderstands you, you remain at peace. Ethics under pressure. The true test of ethical living isn't in easy moments, it's under pressure. Will you speak up when silence would protect you? Will you tell the truth when lying would benefit you? Will you return what isn't yours, even if no one would notice? Will you honor your principles when it costs you money, status, or comfort? This is where most people compromise, but it's also where the unshakable person becomes truly powerful. When you hold your ethical line under pressure, you discover something priceless. Your self-respect is worth more than any temporary gain. And with that discovery, you become untouchable. Ethical living and boundaries. Living ethically doesn't mean tolerating mistreatment. Ethics includes how you treat yourself, with honesty, kindness, and respect. This means you do not lie to yourself about what you need. You do not allow others to violate your boundaries out of politeness. You do not compromise your well-being to avoid conflict. Ethical living requires clear boundaries, both internal and external. When your ethics are rooted in self-respect, you learn to say no without guilt, because saying yes would violate your integrity. The quiet power of personal codes. Every unshakable person has a personal code, a set of ethical principles they live by, regardless of circumstance. This code becomes their compass in hard times, their anchor in storms, and their measuring stick for self-respect. Your code will be unique, but it might include: I speak the truth, even when it's uncomfortable. I treat others with respect, even when they do not. I honor my word, even when it's inconvenient. I take responsibility for my actions, even when no one is watching. I correct my mistakes, rather than hide them. This code is not for public display. It is your private pact with yourself, a silent agreement that your peace and power come not from external success, but from inner alignment. Ethical living and detachment from outcomes. One of the surprising benefits of ethical living is that it frees you from obsession with results. When your primary concern is acting with integrity, you stop being controlled by whether others approve, whether things go your way, or whether you're rewarded. You speak the truth, even if it costs you. You act kindly, even if no one notices. You honor your commitments, even if no one thanks you. This detachment from outcome makes you incredibly strong, because you realize your sense of worth comes from how you live, not what you achieve. Practical ways to strengthen ethical living. 1. Define your core values. Write down 5 to 7 values that represent your highest principles. These become your ethical foundation. 2. The integrity check. When making decisions, ask: if someone I deeply respect saw me do this, would I feel proud or ashamed? 3. Daily self-reflection. At day's end, review. Did I live by my values today? Where did I compromise? What can I correct tomorrow? 4. Own mistakes quickly. When you violate your own ethics, and you will, own it fast. Correct the behavior and recommit to your values. The foundation of the unshakable self. Ethical living is not about perfection. It's about alignment. It's the daily choice to match your actions with your values, knowing that inner peace comes not from applause, but from self-respect. When you live ethically, you become untouchable. No scandal can break you, no lie can expose you, and no external attack can threaten what matters most: your relationship with yourself. This is the foundation of an unshakable life. Chapter 9. Practice gratitude. Building a mindset of abundance and resilience. Gratitude is not a luxury. It's a discipline. Most people treat gratitude as something they practice when life is going well, when success arrives, when health is strong, when relationships feel fulfilling. In other words, they view gratitude as conditional, a reaction to external circumstances. But unshakable people reverse this entirely. For them, gratitude is not a reaction, it's a chosen perspective. It's not something you wait for when life feels good. It's a discipline you practice when life feels impossible. It's the lens you put on deliberately, especially when the world gives you every excuse not to. This shift, from gratitude as a luxury to gratitude as a foundation, is one of the most powerful mindset changes you can make. The gratitude deficit mindset. Modern life trains you to see what's missing. Advertisements constantly highlight what you don't have. Social media feeds showcase what others have achieved. Self-improvement culture often focuses on what you need to fix about yourself. This creates a gratitude deficit, a constant focus on what's absent, broken, or unfinished. In this mindset, even successes feel hollow, because they only highlight the gap between where you are and where you think you should be. Unshakable living requires flipping this script. You choose to focus on what is present, whole, and already yours. You train your mind to see the abundance hiding in plain sight. This isn't toxic positivity. It's training your brain to see reality more clearly, without the distortions of comparison and scarcity. Gratitude and emotional resilience. Gratitude is not just about feeling good, it's a resilience practice. When life disappoints you, and it will, gratitude becomes your anchor. Instead of spiraling into despair, you learn to hold both truths at once. Life is hard, and there are still gifts here. This capacity, to find something to be grateful for even in suffering, makes you resilient. Gratitude doesn't erase hardship, but it reminds you that hardship never tells the whole story. The unshakable mind trains itself to see both, the pain and the gift, in every moment. The biology of gratitude. Gratitude is not just a mindset shift, it's a biological rewiring. Studies show that regular gratitude practice changes your brain's default patterns. When you consciously seek things to be grateful for, your brain's neural pathways shift. You literally train your mind to spot what's working, what's beautiful, and what's valuable. Over time, this rewiring becomes automatic. Gratitude becomes your brain's reflex, your first instinct, not your forced exercise. This matters enormously for resilience. A mind that's wired for gratitude recovers from stress faster, finds solutions more easily, sees opportunities in obstacles, feels naturally abundant rather than perpetually deprived. Gratitude and self-worth. Gratitude isn't just about external blessings, it's also about how you see yourself. Are you grateful for your own resilience? Do you appreciate your progress, even if no one else sees it? Do you value your capacity to learn, adapt, and endure? Many people only show gratitude for external gifts, but the unshakable mind practices inner gratitude, recognizing their own strength, wisdom, and growth. This builds unshakable self-worth, because your value no longer depends on outside approval. Gratitude for yourself is not arrogance. It's self-respect. Gratitude as a weapon against comparison. Comparison is one of the fastest ways to destroy inner peace. No matter how much you achieve, there will always be someone with more success, more beauty, more recognition. Gratitude is the antidote to this poison. When you practice gratitude, you stop measuring your life against others' highlight reels. You start seeing your life as valuable, not because it's perfect, but because it's yours. The more you practice gratitude, the less interested you become in keeping score. You shift from competing to appreciating, and in that shift, you recover enormous energy and peace. Gratitude and impermanence. One of the most profound sources of gratitude comes from accepting that everything is temporary, including you. Every relationship you cherish will end, one way or another. Every possession will wear out. Every moment will pass, never to return. When you live with this awareness, not as a fear, but as a fact, gratitude becomes automatic. You realize how precious this moment is, simply because it will never happen again. The unshakable person cultivates gratitude for impermanence. They don't cling to life's gifts, they treasure them while they're here, release them when they go, and trust that new gifts will come. Gratitude for challenges. The highest form of gratitude, the one that makes you truly unshakable, is gratitude for the hard stuff. The relationship that broke your heart and taught you self-respect. The failure that crushed your ego and forced you to grow. The loss that shattered your plans and revealed a deeper strength. This is not the shallow gratitude of pretending everything is fine. It's the deep, wise gratitude that sees even pain as a teacher, even endings as part of life's wisdom. When you can feel gratitude, not for the pain itself, but for what the pain revealed in you, you become unshakable. Nothing can break you, because every storm makes you richer. Daily practices to build unshakable gratitude. 1. The Book of Enough. Keep a journal called the Book of Enough. Every day, write down 3 to 5 things that are already enough in your life. Relationships, moments, personal qualities, or simple pleasures. This practice trains your mind to see abundance in the present, not just in some future achievement. 2. Micro-gratitude. Throughout the day, Pause to notice small moments of beauty or goodness. Sunlight through a window, the taste of your coffee, a kind word from a stranger. This is micro-gratitude, and it trains your mind to scan for joy in the ordinary. 3. Gratitude reframing. When something difficult happens, ask, what could this be teaching me? What might I be grateful for, even in this? This doesn't mean denying pain. It means training your mind to see both the wound and the gift. 4. Self-gratitude practice. Each night, write down one thing you appreciate about yourself, a quality you showed, a way you grew, or a challenge you faced with courage. This builds inner self-respect, the root of unshakability. Gratitude in relationships. Gratitude isn't just an internal practice, it's relational too. Thank the people who support you, not just for big gestures, but for their presence. Appreciate the flaws in those you love, because they make your connection real. Express gratitude out loud, not just in your head. The more you express gratitude, the stronger your relationships become, and the more you realize you are never alone. The gratitude mindset, a life philosophy. Gratitude is not a trick to feel good. It's a philosophy, a way of living rooted in deep truth. Life owes you nothing, so every gift is extra. Nothing is permanent, so every moment is precious. Everyone is imperfect, so every kindness is gold. The unshakable mind lives by this philosophy. They are grateful for what is. They are at peace with what was. They are open to what will be. This is how gratitude makes you invulnerable. You stop demanding life match your fantasies, and you start receiving life as it is, with gratitude. When you practice this daily, you become unshakable, because there is always something to be grateful for. Even now. Especially now. Chapter 10. Trust the process and let go of control. Cultivating the calm strength to flow with life. The illusion of control. Most people live under the illusion that if they just try hard enough, if they plan well enough, work fast enough, and anticipate every possible outcome, they can control life. They believe they can guarantee success, prevent failure, and shield themselves from pain. But control is a fragile fantasy. You cannot control other people's actions or feelings. You cannot control accidents, losses, or unexpected changes. You cannot control the passage of time or the flow of opportunity. You cannot even fully control your own body, thoughts, or emotions. The belief that you should be able to control these things creates endless anxiety, frustration, and suffering. Every time life veers off script, and it will, you experience it as a personal failure. You believe you've fallen short, when in reality, you've only encountered reality. The unshakable mind doesn't fall for this illusion. It trusts the process, not passively, but with full engagement. It replaces the hunger for control with a deeper confidence. The knowledge that even when life doesn't follow your plan, you are still safe, capable, and whole. Control versus influence. Letting go of control does not mean giving up. It does not mean you drift aimlessly through life, indifferent to outcomes. It means you master the art of distinguishing between what you can influence and what you can't. You can influence your effort, your focus, your attitude. Influence the way you show up for others. Influence your habits, choices, and interpretations. You cannot control how others react. Control the final outcome of your efforts. Control every twist in the road ahead. Unshakable confidence comes from mastering what's within your influence and making peace with what isn't. This is not apathy. It's emotional intelligence at the highest level. The anxiety of the overplanner. If you've ever felt the compulsion to plan every detail of your future, to map out each step, to visualize every outcome, to anticipate every threat, you've experienced the anxiety that comes from overcontrol. This kind of planning doesn't create peace. It creates fragility. Why? Because your sense of safety becomes tied to things going exactly according to plan. The moment life deviates, panic sets in. The unshakable mind takes a different approach. It plans flexibly, knowing plans are maps, not guarantees. It moves forward with purpose, but stays ready to pivot. It embraces uncertainty, not as a threat, but as the natural flow of life. When you stop demanding certainty, you free yourself from the prison of overcontrol. Surrendering to the current. Imagine trying to swim upstream in a powerful river. You fight, you exhaust yourself, and you make almost no progress. Every muscle aches with the frustration of trying to overpower a force far greater than you. Now imagine turning downstream, aligning your body with the current, and using your strength to steer and navigate, rather than resist. This is the difference between control and trusting the process. Life is that river. You can't stop it. You can't reverse it. But you can learn to move with it, steering your actions with purpose, even while surrendering to its greater flow. Unshakable people become skilled navigators. They no longer waste energy fighting what already is. They work with life, not against it. The power of trusting timing. So much suffering comes from believing life should happen on your schedule. Success should arrive by a certain age. Relationships should follow a predictable path. Healing should happen faster. Opportunities should come when you're ready. But nature does not follow your calendar. Trees do not bloom out of season. Tides do not rise at your command. Your own growth cannot be rushed. The unshakable mind trusts that timing has its own intelligence. It understands that just because something isn't happening now doesn't mean it never will. It lets go of the frantic need to force, rush, or demand, and replaces it with patient trust. This trust doesn't make you passive, it makes you peaceful. Letting go of outcome attachment. There's a paradox at the heart of mastery. The more attached you are to a specific outcome, the more fragile and desperate your efforts become. If you must succeed, fear paralyzes you. If you must be liked, you compromise yourself. If you must win, you become reckless. The unshakable mind learns to pursue goals with intention but without attachment. This is the art of detached effort. You give your best, not to guarantee an outcome, but because giving your best is who you are. The outcome becomes secondary. Your integrity in the process becomes primary. Ironically, this detached focus often produces better results, because you're no longer acting from fear, desperation, or insecurity. Trusting yourself, not just the process. To trust the process, you must also trust yourself, your ability to handle whatever comes. Trust your adaptability. You can pivot if needed. Trust your resilience. You can recover from failure. Trust your creativity. You can find new paths. Trust your inner compass. You can make wise choices. This self-trust becomes your foundation. When you know you'll show up with courage and wisdom, no matter what life brings, you no longer need to control every detail. You become confident not in predicting the future, but in your capacity to meet it. Control and the fear of chaos. Letting go of control is hard because it triggers a primal fear, the fear that if you release your grip, everything will collapse. But life is far more self-organizing than you realize. Just as forests regenerate after fires and rivers carve new paths after floods, you too are wired for adaptation. When you trust this, when you stop seeing uncertainty as chaos and start seeing it as potential, you become unshakable. You realize you don't need control to feel safe. You need trust in your own ability to respond to life, however it unfolds. The ritual of letting go. Letting go isn't something you do once. It's a practice, a daily ritual of release. Every day, you release. The illusion of perfect control. The attachment to specific outcomes. The need for everyone to approve of you. The expectation that life will always be comfortable. This doesn't mean giving up your goals or standards. It means committing to the process, not the fantasy of control. Every time you let go, you reclaim inner power. You stop trying to control the uncontrollable, and focus all your energy on the only thing you ever truly own: your response. Daily practices for letting go and trusting the process. 1. The Circle of Influence exercise. Draw a circle. Inside it, list what you can control: your actions, effort, mindset. Outside it, list what you can't: others' opinions, timing, external events. Focus only on the inner circle. 2. Mantra of Release. Each morning, say, I release the need to control everything. I trust myself to handle whatever comes. 3. Detached action check-in. When working toward a goal, pause and ask, Am I acting from clarity and purpose, or from fear and attachment? 4. Trusting past proof. When doubt arises, list all the times you've adapted to unexpected change in the past. Your history of survival is evidence of your resilience. Letting go makes you free. When you stop demanding control, when you stop treating life as something to dominate, you become free. Free to be fully present. Free to explore new paths. Free to recover quickly from setbacks. Free to enjoy the journey, not just the destination. This is the heart of unshakable living. You learn that control was never your source of safety. Your safety was always inside you, in your capacity to adapt, your trust in your own strength, and your willingness to dance with life's unpredictability. When you trust the process, life's uncertainty stops being a threat. It becomes an adventure.